Hey guys, it's Ash from the Awakened State coming at ya in 2020. It's the first video of the year. I really wanted to talk about manifestation and the nitty-gritty of manifestation work. So let's get started. I have got here the Divinely Aligned workbooks. But before we begin into that, I want to talk about, well, first, we have a bunny. We have a bunny. My Christmas decorations are still up. So just bear with me with the different setup. Okay, so let's talk manifestation. One thing I really see a lot of is this we focus on all of the vision boarding, and we focus on the dreaming, and we focus on being in our heads and really getting into this elaborate vision and fantasy, and so much so that it feels like a fantasy, and we forget the practical. And what a lot of people don't talk about is if you have no plan, if you have no action steps, it all feels impossible. So when we approach manifestation, we do need to get into the visioning process, and we do need to get wild and into a place where we can dream big. But if we are not also taking action, we're getting lost in the fantasy. But the hugest thing that I see happen again and again and again is we create all these really cool intentions and affirmations, and our body is screaming the opposite, and it immediately makes us hit a wall. And the hugest thing I see is this inability to follow through. And you'll hear this time and time again, especially since it's January. A lot of people will set resolutions, and then 2 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, they immediately fall back off again. Why is that? It's our inability to meet ourselves where we're at. It's our energy. It's our energetic capacity to keep moving forward and in the flow of consistency. And a big piece of that is due to resistance to change. And manifestation is all about moving out of your comfort zone, moving past the resistance, and basically enabling a new normal, a new standard, a new boundary line that you're creating. So, if you're trying to manifest anything, whether we're talking a boyfriend or a house or a baby or anything in the world, a car, money, a new business, we can go down the line here, you get it. We have to also realize something critical. In order to manifest the thing, our new normal will change. Our normal present reality will shift and change with it. So, if we're still meeting ourselves in the same energy, trying to create a different result from that energy, we're not expanding, we're contracting. So the hugest reason we do not meet our goals, we set our goals, but we do not meet our goals, and we get caught in not being able to follow through, is because we have this inability to create a new normal. And at the heart of that is resistance. Because we have a resistance to change. The ego hates change. The ego thrives on conformity and being tucked into its little security blanket. And the more we realize that, we keep our energy contracted. And I always like to see this as our energy is like this ball. And as we grew up, it was this ball bucket that we filled with all of our programming, our beliefs, our habits, our feelings, everything we grew up with, basically. And this became your identity. It became this ball of energy that became your ego, your identity, how you were created, your personality, all of it got shoved into your bucket and that became you. Now, when you start the world of manifestation, what happens? The ego gets pissed the fuck off because now you're like, oh shoot, I want to empty my bucket out and I want to start putting new stuff in there. And so your identity gets freaked out and it causes all of this resistance to form. And our energy is contracted or expanding. And when we're in contraction, we're in a state of fear. We're in a state of fight or flight mode. This is how the identity keeps itself safe and keeps itself in a conformed experience, in a conformed, conditioned experience. If that's too much, let's just bring it back. So that is a contracted vibration. When we make a manifestation and we create an intention, we're basically expanding the identity. Now, if we've never expanded our identity before, or we've never approached manifestation before, we usually get caught up in an inability to follow through because there's too much resistance. There's too much momentum in the other direction. So what do we have to do? We need to start carving a plan. We need to start taking action. We need to start creating a new channel of experience. And that is ultimately what starts a new momentum that stabilizes a new energy and gets you out of inaction and into a place of action. So here's what I noticed, and this is something that I love to specialize in, is we often get caught in this state of taking action from fear. And that action from fear versus soul is what keeps us stuck in a place where we are unable to fulfill our manifestations. Because we are caught up in the fight-flight mode and we basically keep contracting our identity. What do we need to do instead? We need to get out of the place of inaction and into the place of action. But what do you do if you're completely stuck in this place of fear and there's too much momentum in the other direction so that it's hard to even think about getting into the action? What is really going on here? Well, what is going on is we're listening too closely to the fear mind. We're too close to our problems that we're not allowing ourselves to even believe in the ability that we are worthy of achieving it. So our body is neutralizing out and doesn't feel worthy enough to receive it. So the mind-body connection is so crucial because if the mind doesn't believe, the feeling cannot live in the body. And if the feeling doesn't live in the body, how are you supposed to walk that out into the world? You can't. So instead, we have to think about this in a very simple way. The easiest way to get out of inaction is to establish clarity. To establish clarity with what you want. You have to establish clarity with what you want and why you want it. Because that starts creating a new energy. It starts creating a new momentum. Because now, not only are you clear, you're finally in alignment with why you deeply want it. And that creates a push. It creates a pull. It creates an energy where you suddenly have a momentum to get started. All right, so I've been doing this for a few years. It's called the Divinely Aligned. Oh, wait, this is the 2019 edition, and this is the 2020 edition. So I've been doing this for a few years, and it's a reflection and intention workbook, which goes over how do you deeply desire to feel and co-create in your life. What I've created is it's a soul mapping process. And this is entirely free, by the way. And it's a soul mapping process that goes into the different layers of your life where you can start getting more intentional with what you desire to create in your life. Because here's the thing, this is what I ultimately believe. I believe we are all capable of manifesting. I believe we are all co-creators of reality. I believe that what has happened is we have forgotten our ability to be a co-creator. You know, no one gave us the rule book when we were born, and our parents didn't teach us that. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, you can manifest. It was never taught to us. We're moving into a different world, an evolved paradigm. The more we open up our ability to co-create, we start operating in an entirely different energy that is operating from soul, from source energy, from higher consciousness, a higher paradigm of awareness. And it's this energy of anchoring in higher truth, and we're choosing to expand the soul. So my philosophy is everyone has the ability to manifest, but we need to get started today. You need to get intentional with your life. It begins with getting more intentional with your life. So I have a soul mapping process where you can start deep diving into some questions, where you have this map laid out where you can go into different areas of your life and find out, like, you know, where do you want to improve on? Where do you want to grow? What do you want to learn? When I really started doing this process, and it all started with a gratitude challenge, it really changed my life because I was no longer, excuse me, I was no longer in the state of feeling victimhood. I was no longer in the state of feeling that I was stuck where I was at and I was powerless over my circumstance. Because once I started learning to manifest, I suddenly realized that we're so much more powerful than when we realize. It's amazing. We start to realize that we can move and elevate beyond our current circumstance into the field of infinite possibility, which is our core state. We are made from the quantum field. The quantum field is always connected to us. This means that what we desire is already available to us, but we have to get the momentum going. And I truthfully believe the easiest way to get started is to establish clarity. Because here's the hugest thing. The reason why so many of us don't have what we want, and we don't believe we are capable of having what we want, is we never actually claimed it. We never actually set an intention. We never actively chose it with conscious choice. Conscious choice is everything because it allows us to finally get clear. And here's the thing, what stops us the most from following through is our inability to get crystal clear clarity with what we actually want. And when we don't know what we actively want and we actively desire, our brain is basically going in autopilot default mode because it's just co-creating from the old identity, the old experience, the old habits. So until you are willing to start establishing new intentions and new clarity and new goals, you're going to keep recycling that experience. But I'm here to tell you that intention setting is where it all begins. Because if you don't have that clarity, how can you know to take the action you need to take? How can you even believe that you can take the action? Because it all starts right there. You have to have elevated clarity. Elevated clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates results. And that's the hugest lesson that I wish more people would know about manifestation. So I invite you to check out the Divinely Aligned 2020 workbook. It's completely free. It's located in the Awaken Library. It's my absolute favorite tool for intention setting. And I'm gifting to it for free. So here's the thing. I absolutely love talking about manifestation and energetic principles and really diving into the nitty-gritty of manifestation work. So if you have any questions or you would like me to touch on further topics on manifestation, please drop them below, subscribe, and I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day.